It was a cold, drizzly morning in Providence when the courtroom doors opened and people slowly began to fill the benches. Judge Frank Caprio, known across the city as the kind-hearted man behind the bench, adjusted his glasses and smiled as he prepared to start the day. The courtroom, always buzzing with quiet anticipation, held a mix of nervous laughter and sighs from people waiting to hear their fate for speeding tickets, parking violations, or minor infractions. Among them was a tired-looking young woman, clutching a folder in one hand and the strap of her worn-out purse in the other. Her name was Emily Carter, a single mother of 2 children who sat quietly beside her, swinging their legs nervously. It was clear from her posture that she was anxious, not because of the fine itself, but because even the smallest unexpected expense could shake her fragile financial balance. When Judge Caprio called her name, Emily stood up, trying to hide her nerves behind a polite smile. She guided her children forward, one holding her hand tightly, the other clutching a small toy car. The judge greeted them warmly, as he always did, softening the room with his kind voice. "Good morning, Miss Carter," he said. "And who are these 2 young people you've brought along?" Emily introduced them, Jacob, age 7, and Lily, just 5. The judge chuckled. "Well, they might just be the best-behaved kids I've seen in this courtroom," he said, earning a shy smile from Lily. The courtroom, usually so formal and tense, seemed to relax for a moment. Even the officers behind the bench grinned slightly, watching the small family standing together. Judge Caprio flipped through the papers in front of him and began reading aloud. "It looks like we have a speeding violation here," he said. 45 miles per hour in a 30 zone. He looked up. "That's 15 miles over the limit. What happened, Miss Carter?" Emily's eyes flickered downward. "Your Honor," she began softly, "I was on my way to work that morning. I know I shouldn't have been speeding, but I was late dropping my kids off at school, and then my car started making this noise, like it was about to stall. I was just trying to get to work on time before my boss noticed." She paused and looked at her children. "I didn't realize how fast I was going. I wasn't trying to break the law." Her honesty was simple but powerful. Judge Caprio listened carefully, his expression thoughtful. "Where do you work?" he asked. "At a diner, sir," Emily replied. "It's not far from where I was stopped. I've been there about 2 years. I usually start at 7 in the morning." The judge nodded. "And you're raising these 2 children on your own?" She nodded again. "Yes, Your Honor. Their father hasn't been around for a while." The courtroom fell quiet for a moment. Even the murmurs of people waiting for their turn faded as everyone listened to her. Judge Caprio leaned back in his chair, his face softening. "Miss Carter, I see a lot of people come through this courtroom, but I can tell you're not the kind of person who just ignores the law. You're just doing your best to make ends meet." He looked at the citation again. The fine was nearly $200, a heavy blow for someone already living paycheck to paycheck. Emily shifted uneasily, biting her lip. "If it's all right, sir," she said quietly. "Could I pay it in installments? I just can't afford it all at once." Before the judge could respond, little Jacob raised his hand timidly. "Sir," he said in a small voice. The courtroom chuckled softly. "Yes, young man?" Judge Caprio replied with a grin. "Mom didn't mean to go fast," Jacob said. "She was just trying to get to work so we could have dinner." The room melted. The honesty of a child had a way of cutting straight to the heart. Even the officer standing near the judge smiled, shaking his head slightly. Judge Caprio chuckled warmly. "Well, Jacob, thank you for that explanation. You're quite the lawyer for your mom." He turned back to Emily. "Miss Carter, I'll tell you what. You've got 2 wonderful kids here who clearly think the world of you. I don't think you were being reckless and just overwhelmed." He paused, then said, "How about we split the fine in half?" Emily's eyes widened slightly. "Oh, Your Honor, that would help so much," she said, visibly relieved. But before she could thank him again, he raised his hand gently. "Actually," he said, "you know what? These kids made my morning. They reminded me of what matters most, family, love, and trying to do the right thing even when life makes it hard. I'm going to dismiss this ticket entirely." Gasps and smiles spread through the courtroom. Emily froze, unsure she had heard correctly. "Dismissed?" she asked softly. "That's right," Judge Caprio said with a nod. "No fine, no record. Just be careful on the road, all right?" Her eyes welled up as she covered her mouth, trying not to cry in front of her children. "Thank you, sir," she whispered. "You don't know how much this means." The judge smiled. "I think I do. And maybe someday, when you're in a position to help someone else, you'll remember today and do the same." The moment lingered in the courtroom. The spectators, people who had come in nervous, defensive, or frustrated, seemed to soften too. They weren't just watching a legal proceeding, they were witnessing a reminder of humanity in its simplest form. The officer called the next case, but the warmth in the room didn't fade. Emily and her kids walked out of the courtroom hand in hand, smiling through their tears. Outside, the air was still gray and wet, but it felt lighter somehow. Emily knelt down and hugged her children tightly. "Did you hear that?" she said, her voice breaking with joy. "We don't have to pay it?" Jacob grinned proudly. "Because I told the truth." Lily nodded eagerly. "The nice man said you were good, Mommy." Emily laughed through her tears. "He's a very nice man," she said, "and you both were amazing." As they walked toward their old sedan parked down the street, Emily thought about the weight that had been lifted from her shoulders. That $200 would have been groceries, gas, and maybe a little treat for her kids. She had been running herself ragged for months, working double shifts, managing bills, fixing a car that barely held together. But that morning, something shifted. It wasn't just about the ticket being dismissed. It was about feeling seen, respected, and understood. Meanwhile, back inside the courtroom, Judge Caprio continued hearing cases. But for a moment between each hearing, his mind drifted back to the little family that had just left. Over the years, he had seen so many faces, angry drivers, careless teenagers, stubborn elders, but it was the honest, struggling souls like Emily who stayed in his memory. Those moments reminded him why he did what he did. Later that day, a local TV crew that often filmed his cases asked him about that morning's hearing. "Judge, how do you decide when to let someone off?" He smiled. "The law is important," he said, "but so is compassion. You can punish someone for a mistake, or you can teach them something about mercy. Sometimes that lesson stays with them far longer than a fine ever would." The clip of Emily's case aired that week, and it quickly spread online. Viewers were moved by the raw emotion of a single mother just trying to survive, by the innocence of a child defending his mom, and by the kindness of a judge who saw the person behind the violation. Comments flooded in, people sharing their own stories of struggle, gratitude, and unexpected kindness. For Emily, life didn't suddenly become easy after that day. She still worked long hours, still balanced bills, and still faced her share of hard nights. But that single act of grace stayed with her. Whenever she started to lose faith in herself or the world, she'd remember that moment, standing before a judge who didn't just see a number or a case file but a mother doing her best. She paid that kindness forward, helping others at the diner, offering meals to those who couldn't afford them, and teaching her kids that goodness, no matter how small, always comes back around. Years later, when Jacob was in high school, he wrote an essay about the kindest person I ever met. He didn't write about a celebrity or a hero. He wrote about Judge Frank Caprio, the man who showed mercy to his mom and taught him that compassion was stronger than punishment. The essay won a local contest, and when Judge Caprio received a copy in the mail, he smiled, remembering that rainy morning and the little boy who had once raised his hand to defend his mother. In that simple courtroom, amidst the traffic fines and citations, something extraordinary had happened. A reminder that justice, when delivered with heart, can change more than just a day. It can change lives.